Hello and welcome to our second hour of debate here on WEFS. Thanks for watching. If you're just joining us, we're live at the Melbourne campus of Eastern Florida State College. I'm Matt Reed, editorial page editor and columnist at Florida Today. And coming up, I'm going to introduce you to the candidates for Brevard County Clerk of Courts. They're competing for a unique and important position here. It combines management of courthouse functions and cooperation with judges with a local mandate to serve as auditor and fiscal watchdog in county government. First, I want to thank our co-sponsors, the Space Coast League of Cities and the League of Women Voters of the Space Coast. Their membership and our editorial advisory board helped us narrow the focus of our questioning tonight to issues that we think really matter most in this race. And if you're on Twitter tonight, you can add your take to our coverage using the hashtag 321vote. Now to the candidates. They know the rules. They've been briefed on the topics. They are, in alphabetical order, Republican Scott Ellis, the incumbent Clerk of Courts. Republican Trudy Infantini, she is a two-term county commissioner. And independent or no party affiliation candidate, Dave Netterstrom, a former Cocoa Beach mayor who will face the Republican primary winner in the fall. I'd like to begin now by giving each of the candidates a 1-minute opening statement. We'll start with Scott Ellis.
Thanks, Matt. 2012, I came back to run for the Clerk of the Courts, knockdown, drag-out battle. My successor at that time, Mitch Needleman, contract problems, outsourcing problems, criminal problems, various problems. Very little help, truthfully, from Florida Today, none from the chamber. A lot of people helped us. We defeated Mitch. I come back to work in January 2013. This is on my desk. Tinfoil hat. Black helicopter. And that's what was left me by my predecessors. Unfortunately for them, on August 15th, 2013, black helicopters landed. They were friendlies. Mitch, Rose, and Matt were all arrested. There are felony charges now. We have been digging out of that during the first year. We've come through state budget cuts. We're still alive. And quite truthfully, these are on my desk. I brought them here today. I leave them there with pride, because I stand by my principles, and I'm not going to be intimidated by the people that want to act like you don't know what you're talking about.
Trudy Infantini.
Hi, thank you very much for having us. I'm Trudy Infantini. I'm a certified public accountant. I've been in Brevard County with my husband and our 4 kids for the last 26 years. And since that time, my family's grown tremendously. We've added 2 sons-in-laws, and we've added 3 grandkids, and soon I'll have 1 more son-in-law. I chose to run for Clerk of Court because I'm a CPA, and a Clerk of Court is the CFO of the county, and I think there's no better person to be a CFO for your county and managing your financial affairs than a certified public accountant. I look forward to the rest of the debate.
Dave Netterstrom.
Hi, I'm Dave Netterstrom, former mayor of Cocoa Beach and now running for Clerk of Courts. I am running as an MPA because I firmly believe that this position ought to be a nonpartisan position. We don't like it when the IRS applies its political ideology into its daily work practices, and the same should apply with the Clerk of Courts. This is not a policy-making position. Others actually set the policy. It's up to the clerk to make sure things are being executed per the policies and rules that have been set by others. I pledge to stay neutral and focus on doing the job that you guys hired me to do. I'm nobody's puppet. I've got a serious campaign. I've almost spent $50,000 on this campaign already. This is an important full-time job. When I was director of operations for Sony Ericsson, it was a 7x24 kind of an operation. If production lines shut down or customer orders were missed, there was huge impact. Given the clerk's current budget challenges, we're going to have to do more than just show up for work. Thank you very much.
Okay. First question I'd like to ask you all just has to do with court services. What services provided by the Clerk of Court do you think need to be improved? Let's start with Trudy Infantini.
I guess it would be the delivery of services at the front desk as well as case management. Delivery at the front desk, one of the things when I was working, let me preface, I got my career start at the Clerk of Courts back in about 2006, and I was hired as an auditor. And when I was sitting there doing my auditing, frequently I would notice long lines getting behind one individual while other lines were non-existent. And I started thinking perhaps there should be more cross-training taking place. In my staff is completely cross-trained. There's so much cross-trained that if I miss a day, if I happen to leave town to go to a wedding, they've taken care of all of the new things that are coming up on the agenda and reaching out to individuals. So I guess cross-training would be one of my top priorities.
Dave Netterstrom.
Well, we haven't talked about the budget yet, but that is going to be, or is very critical. But due to the budget problems, speaking of lines, the current clerk has already announced that lines are going to go up. They're going to become longer. Filings are going to be delayed, and processing times are going to become longer. The service levels are heading down. My focus is going to be to focus less on policy issues and more on running the clerk of courts operation as efficiently as I possibly can. We're going to need to work hard at finding solutions to maintain keeping the service levels that are there now. It's going to be very difficult and challenging to keep the branch locations open. I certainly hate long lines. The services that do need to be user-friendly, easily accessed, and less intimidating so that you don't necessarily have to hire an attorney for simple things. One idea for improved service won't cost any money, but would be to encourage judges to allow the media in the courtrooms. After all, it is the people's court.
Scott Ellis.
This is a come to work every day and be prepared job. It's also come to the campaign and be prepared job. Every person on our front counter is cross-trained. They can do recording, they can take civil intake, traffic tickets. They can do everything. Every person is cross-trained, has been cross-trained for years, since before I came back. I'm not sure what the big deal of cross-training, if I had two people in the office take complaints, cross-training email or phones. We take a lot of complex operations, go into Melbourne, go into the courthouse, and you will see that everyone is cross-trained. We've been cut 20% since I've been back. $2.7 million has been cut from our budget from 13.8 to 11.1. And so when I hear the mayor talk about, and I go by your fire station, you've raised taxes in Cocoa Beach every year that you were there. Money went up. You built a mammoth fire station. We're sitting there struggling to get through. I did not announce that things are going to get longer. That's a natural outcome when you lose 20% of your budget. What we have done to maintain that is we've gone electronic. We have electronic filing. We lead the state in electronic filing. We are the only county where the judges do electronic orders, and we have kept up with technology to cover those losses. No other agency here has had any kind of losses. 20%, they haven't had any losses. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to give you each an opportunity, 30 seconds, to clarify, rebut, or respond to anything that came up in the first round of answers. Trudy Infantini.
I don't have much to say except for the fact that I can always see improvement. No matter whose office you go into, there's always areas of improvement in staffing that can be made, and oftentimes a new set of eyes brings just that. And I happen to be bringing a new set of eyes and an incredibly new energy to the office that it hasn't seen in a long time.
Dave Netterstrom.
Scott, I made a mistake. You're right. You didn't announce that lines are going longer. Laura Rice, I believe, works in your organization. She announced that lines would be going longer to the Florida Clerk of Courts Corporation. And as far as the fire station in Cocoa Beach actually likes its fire station. So unless you're running for a commission on the Cocoa Beach Commission, I perhaps suggest you mind your own business.
I suggest, Dave, that you didn't have any kind of cuts like we did. You've had more money, we've had less. If you had 20% less in Cocoa Beach, you wouldn't have that fire station. All right, and as far as the times, we have done the best we can with the technology we've done. You're not working with 20% less budget. County's not working 20% less budget. We are. We had a new set of eyes in 2010. Mitch Needleman went through a new set of eyes one time, and it was an absolute total disaster. So we're coming back out of that now. And the initial cuts that were proposed to us in Orlando, at one point, it started off at $3.5 million. It ended up with the last cut at $1.5 million. And yes, that would have been 1/3 of the office lost.
I'm going to follow up on a question on an issue that came up in that first round there. One of the ways that a lot of agencies try to save money when they have that kind of a budget problem is with outsourcing and privatization. But as we've learned during the Blueware case, that is a danger zone at times. There aren't the same requirements for bidding by law in constitutional offices like that. So square for me how you would potentially approach that issue and how you would prevent abuses or problems with privatization and outsourcing? Let's start with Dave Netterstrom.
That outsourcing issue was tried and failed. Really, the only way you're going to get a cost savings in outsourcing is probably it's going to be pay reduction or benefit reductions to the employees. And then, of course, the outsourcing firm's going to expect to make a profit. There's no reason why the government can't maintain management of these employees and try to run as cost effectively and as efficiently as possible. So outsourcing of those kinds of functions doesn't make sense. There might be IT things or other non-core competencies that make sense that should be looked at. But as far as what was tried in our clerk of courts, I agree that that wasn't a smart thing to do, and I'm glad that they all came back.
Scott Ellis.
The outsourcing that was done by Mitch Needleman had nothing to do with saving money. It's all about putting money in people's pockets. It was all a scam. That was the point of that. What we have done, Matt, again, we do more with less people by further automating the office. And that's how you keep up, is through the use of technology. And I can tell you it's more important to understand technology than it is to understand accounting. 10% of our office is finance, 80% of our office is courts, 10% is official records. And I don't have a CPA, but I do have an MBA, and I can tell you, as an old programmer, I can get my reports correct when I turn them in every week to the Division of Elections. So the technology is far more important than the accounting. It is the only way we've kept up. We are at the leading edge of technology. We have more records online than any other county as far as records available versus records we have out there. It is the only way. Our phone room used to have 28 people, now it has 12. The file room had 25 people, now it has 6. Everything is done through the electronic filing to keep up. Thank you.
Trudy Infantini.
Okay, well, the whole thing about having a new set of eyes, we ran into the outsourcing because Mr. Ellis left in 2010. He was tired of doing his job, and I understand that. He'd been doing it since 2000. I'm not tired. I'm energized, and that's what I bring forward. I bring forward a new energy, and I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to quit halfway through my term. You're not going to run into the outsourcing problem because I believe I have the power to motivate the employees. I have a program that I'm going to try to create all of the employees to be civil servants, much like the way they are with the sheriff's department, so they have job security from one clerk to the next. Right now, everybody's wondering in limbo, oh gosh, do I still have my job, when the clerk gets thrown out. I don't want them to have that anxiety. That's not right. It's an unfair problem for them to be facing. So I'm going to start making those changes into staffing to bring higher morale into the department.
Dave Netterstrom, do you want to take 30 seconds to respond, clarify, or rebut anything that came up in the answers?
The last word that was just mentioned was morale. Morale is a major issue in the clerk's organization, and that's something that the next clerk is going to have to deal with to try to pick up.
Scott Ellis.
I did not remove employees when I came on board in 2001. 2013, the only employees who left were fundamentally Needleman management. I'm not sure about being tired of work, but I will tell you, when I won my county commission job in 1992, I quit my job at Grumman, and I became a full-time county commissioner. And you know what? If I was a part-time county commissioner, I might have plenty of energy too. I come to work every day, all year. All right, it's a full-time job. It's not a show up whenever and shoot from the hip job. This is a full-time job. And I'd have a lot more gas too if I had a part-time job and spent the rest of the time campaigning. So it's a very unfair comparison for someone that doesn't put in near the hours as I do to make that statement. I did come back in 12. I had no help from the county commission. I had no help from the Florida Today. None of you helped. I sued the county to get the Blueware public records. No one intervened to help on that either. We got the records. The criminal charges are there. Not because I had a lot of help from all these people with all this energy. Thank you.
I believe it's my opportunity to
Trudy
rebut.
Infantini.
Well, I don't know what you've done in your first life, but I've been a wife, a mother, a grandmother. I teach I had an accounting practice, and I ran my commission office with good staff. So I really believe in staffing. And yes, that's why I've got all that energy, because I surround myself with extremely competent, qualified people. Otherwise, I couldn't do all of the jobs I do. So maybe you haven't been exposed to women like me, but I'll tell you what, don't you worry about me getting the job done.
You are paid to do the commission job. You are not paid to do the other jobs. You are paid to be a full-time commissioner.
No, I am paid to be a commissioner and get the job done, and I am doing a commission job, and I am getting the job done. Very well. As a matter of fact, I will match up my record of accomplishments against your record of accomplishments for the last 8 years. Go to my voting record. It's at the Brevard County website. Go ahead and match up every single thing that I've done, everything that I've done to stand up for these people, all of the citizens of Brevard County for the past 7.5 years, oftentimes in 4-to-1 controversy. I stood alone because that's my job, and I was always well prepared. And if you can find any of the times I wasn't, then go ahead.
Do you think it was not the same for me from 92 to 96 as a commissioner? All right, it was no different when I was there 92 to 96, and we came prepared. It was not in by 9, out by 12. They were all-day meetings. Be prepared. Know what you were talking about. None of the commissioners are full-time right now, and quite truthfully, most of the time they are not prepared.
All right, let me just keep things on track and fair here. Since you both had an opportunity to speak a little bit more, I'm going to give Dave Netterstrom 30 seconds to.
I'm not sure I want to get involved with this at all, and quite honestly, I think I'm starting to miss some of the debates that we had on the Cocoa Beach Commission, so I'll pass.
Well, you better be ready for the fall, right? Okay, let's move on to the subject of auditing. The clerk's office has a team of auditors that takes a look at spending related to county budgets. How do you make the call on what to audit or not in county government, and how would you manage that function? Let's start this time with Trudy Infantini.
I think it's Mr. Ellis's turn to start first.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
I don't
I missed, I didn't move my marker.
Oh, that's okay. I'm
Scott
paying
Ellis?
attention.
Primarily the auditing that we do, county finance, is our expenditures legal or illegal? So therefore, Matt submits an expense, we check the fund number, is that a legal expense for that fund number? Yes, it is. We do look at issues that are smart and stupid. However, we have no authority over smart and stupid. We can make recommendations to the board, most of which are ignored. The clerk does not have the internal audit funding. We do have internal audit authority when we have funding that was generated by recording fees. The board stopped funding internal audit when I took office in 2001.
Trudy Infantini?
The audit functions are clearly defined in the Constitution, and so there's mostly what the clerk of courts is supposed to audit is going to be internal audits. We do not get into auditing the other constitutional offices, so that's not something I'm going to be stepping into. I'm going to be auditing the payments of disbursements that are supposed to be made that the county commissioners pass over to us, and then make sure that every payment is a lawful payment. I won't be paying any bribes to anybody, so watch out. But other than that, that's pretty much all we're supposed to audit.
Dave Netterstrom?
Yeah, there are 3 types of audits. There's the financial audit of the county commission agencies and the charter offices. This is actually outsourced to independent auditing firm, and I don't think there's any controversy here. There's the pre-audit function. It's very similar to what was just mentioned. This is the CFO comptroller function given to the clerk to make sure that all expenditures are proper and legal before paying the bill. This is also known as the watchdog part of the job of being a clerk. And again, this is covered by Florida statute, and I don't think there's any controversy here. And then there's the internal audit, used to reduce the risk of loss and evaluate management's efficiency and effectiveness. By Florida statute, this responsibility falls under the clerk, unless the county commission decides to hire an independent auditing firm. Brevard County did outsource this function a few years ago for many reasons: cost, professionalism, timely products, access to greater depth of knowledge. I'd prefer to keep the internal auditing outsourced, but here's the controversy. As mentioned, the current clerk still lists internal auditing as one of his responsibilities. Again, using time, money, resources in areas that are not his business, while losing focus on doing the job of serving the courts.
Scott Ellis, would you like to add or clarify?
Clerk still has the authority for internal audit. We don't have the funding for it. That does not mean we cannot do audits at times. And quite truthfully, as Ms. Infantini knows, we dealt with audits on the EELS program, not very favorably by the Florida Today, I can tell you, where that we watch property bought for 2 and 3 times its value. So yes, Mr. Netterstrom, we do internal audit when the county's being ripped off for millions of dollars, and we bring it to the board. I will go back again, we have no authority over smart and stupid. We only have authority over legal and illegal. So therefore, if the county chooses to pay $60 million in North Brevard for $20 million worth of property, we can only bring that to their attention. We cannot stop it, unfortunately.
Trudy Infantini, do you want to add, clarify, or rebut anything?
No, I'll let it go, thank you.
Dave Netterstrom?
Again, there's a difference of opinion as to whether or not there is authority. I know there's different legal opinions on that. I do know that when the clerk did have the internal audits, they were conducted unprofessionally, politically motivated, and often at a cost of over $100,000 per audit, and went on for many years. So that's why it was outsourced.
Well, you need to finish the rest of the story. That internal audit was never under Scott Ellis. That is internal audit from the 1990s under Sandy Crawford. We were never funded for internal audit since I took office in 2001. Period.
Let me follow up on something that you brought up about smart and stupid.
Thank you.
They listen or they don't listen.
That's correct, Matt.
Okay, if your audits are pointing to good ideas, how do you get county commissioners to be smarter? And why aren't they being more smart?
They've already made up their mind to squander the money, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. I cannot be any more direct than that.
Trudy Infantini?
I will say, when I was an auditor under Scott Ellis as the clerk of court, we did bring many audits forward, and when I would go through and find how much, it was frequently on land purchases was mostly my focus, and so I learned how to do appraisals by the hip, and I found oftentimes the appraisers were not using similar comparables when you were comparing one property to another to justify the cost that the county was about to pay. So I brought forth that information, and I would show them how specifically their comparables were totally unjustified and out of basis. And then occasionally those audits would be brought forward to the county commission. And actually, we did save, because of those audits, we were able to save the county millions of dollars. And I think it was a really fun learning experience, learning how to do an appraiser's job and find out all about comparables.
Yes, it was.
Dave Netterstrom.
So I really gave a lot of thought as to whether or not I should use the word stupid tonight, but I'm so glad that Mr. Ellis has decided to use stupid. He is very good at pointing out ideas of whether they're smart or stupid, but I never hear alternatives coming out of his mouth as far as what other solutions there should be. So it's very frustrating sometimes. It's easy to just take jabs at other people's ideas.
Where have I not offered alternatives? An example, please? Thank you. The sound of silence. Because that's nothing but talk. I have offered alternatives. I have been before the board. They don't want to hear the alternatives. And quite truthfully, on one of the appraisals, which Trudy will remember, we had 2 appraisals by supposedly independent appraisers. They had copied each other word for word in parts of the appraisals. They were literally lifted from one appraisal and placed in the other, and the county commission, Matt, still voted to accept those appraisals, independent appraisals, and bought the property.
Trudy Infantini, do you want to add something from a commissioner's perspective?
I do, because, well, not really from a commissioner's perspective, but it's kind of going back to a few questions ago where I was accused of not working hard enough at my job. That actual audit took place over a long holiday weekend. I received the data from the county commission office on a Thursday. It was a long weekend. I worked the entire weekend. My husband had an extra table, a 6-foot-long table set up in my den, and I had papers all spread out, and I was working in conjunction with 2 other auditors at 4 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning, getting our revelations of how these auditors were doing something. So I think it's unique that I'm going back. I know I digress, but Mr. Ellis seems to think that I don't tend to work hard enough. I do work hard. I work smart and I work efficiently, and through technology, I'm able to work from home.
Dave Netterstrom.
One of the audits that was under the responsibility of Mr. Ellis, and this is in regards to professionalism, was his internal auditor was in the process of auditing the EELS program while at the same time asking the EELS program to purchase their own property, which was kind of awkward, I guess, to have an auditor auditing the EELS program at the same time asking the EELS program to buy their property.
Yes, that was very awkward, Dave. Okay, I worked through that. Would you like to give the name, please? I think you should give the name since you brought up the issue.
Ms. Infantini, you were an auditor at that time. I believe that was your request.
Because truthfully, Trudy's better off to do the rebuttal.
It was not a request, it was an offer. And that was all it was, because we had riverfront property between two other, like a sanctuary, protected property. And I was auditing eels, and I thought, oh, wow, this is the type of property they purchase. I should tell them we had this extra land that we're not going to do anything with. So I told them that. That was all there was to it. I had even told it to Mr. Ellis. He didn't realize that I had said that, and I thought, oh, okay. And that was the end of it.
Because my belief is the audit stands on its own 2 feet.
And again,
Regardless of any personalities between myself, Ms. Infantini, anyone else, the facts of the audit stand on their own 2 feet.
And my opinion is that the audit should be independent.
I was independent, and that's the very funny thing was, actually, I remember talking with Mike Knight one day before all of this came to light, and I actually called him into an office meeting telling him, you probably should change some of the things you're doing because this audit's going public, and I don't think this one audit you're going to want to go public because it showed so many shortfalls in the EELS program, and so many people, myself included, we voted for the EELS program, and we really wanted to see it go forward, and I was trying to appeal to him person to please clean up his act, and then all of a sudden it came out, I was trying to do something bad with my property, and I thought, now, how silly would that be? Why would I do something like that and be in the public eye? It just was void of any logic, because any logical person would never do something like that, knowing you're out in the public eye.
It was a political setup, and that's all it was a political setup by the EELS staff because they did not like to be audited. They wanted to hurry up and spend that bond money as fast as they could so they could kick their feet up on their desk out at the Dow Industrial Park at the EELS building where they set up their own building for over $1 million. And it was causing them a problem having to make decisions on which land to buy. So they rushed to spend that money, and believe me, it was spent very quickly up in North Brevard, and it is long gone for properties we have grossly overpaid for, including my favorite, the Scottsmore cow pasture. It is now a leased cow pasture, and there are endangered cows on the property. If you go up there, Matt, you go up to 5A and US 1, you will see property bought with EELS, endangered lands, with cows grazing on the property. So they must be endangered cows, or it wouldn't have been a smart purchase.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to interrupt Dave about what would be stupid. Not that I would think it would be stupid to spend top dollars on a cow pasture. Maybe that's a smart thing. I should have offered an alternative. Take the cows elsewhere. Thank
Dave,
you.
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond on that issue, and then we're going to move on to another subject.
I'm ready to move on.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about something a little bit more straightforward on this topic. What do you see as the top 3 challenges in terms of the budget for the clerk's office coming during this upcoming term? Let's start with Dave Nedestrom on this one.
Here's the problem. The Brevard clerk's cost per capita is second highest amongst his peer group. All the counties in the state of Florida got cut, but Brevard's budget, for some reason, was by far cut the worst. Why was that? Either the perception is that Brevard is fat, or perhaps somebody doesn't like the Brevard Clerks organization. The solution? We need to be benchmarking with other clerks organizations, share ideas, and learn best practices, figure out why others have lower costs. We also need to spend time in Tallahassee lobbying and building relationships, teaming up with other clerks, finding solutions instead of just calling other ideas stupid. Fight for Brevard's fair allocation instead of fighting within Brevard, and stop spending public resources chasing down personal agenda items. Focus on leading the great people of the clerks organization into a highly optimized and customer-friendly mission of serving the people.
Well, going to Tallahassee is a stupid idea. Quite truthfully, I have reps and senators here. I've met with them. We have less employees than Volusia, Pasco, Polk, and Lee County. The difference in those counties is the county pays for a number of their employees. The county does not pay for any of our employees. If you go to Volusia, the whole IT department is paid for by the county. You go over to Polk, the finance department, Lee, it's all paid for by the county. We don't get any of that county funding. Our county funding at $150,000 is more than $1 million less than all of our peer group. So our cost per capita is not higher, but what is driving our cost is the county insurance. Now, since you asked for three things, Matt, and Dave gave you one that's not true, let me give you three. Number one is we have to deal with the state budgeting our money based on revenues. We have no control over revenues. Number two, there's a Brandis bill moving through the legislature, which I did actually work with people without having to drive to Tallahassee and do it myself. And the bill was killed in the Senate. It's a get out of jail free that you can drive however you want to. Your license will never be suspended. Don't pay your ticket. Don't have insurance. Don't worry about it. That's the Brandis bill. And the third thing is, quite truthfully, the county insurance is killing us. County insurance costs us at ballpark $13,000 per year per employee. That is the highest in our peer group. Pasco's in at $6,000 and $7,000. Volusia's in at $6,000 and $7,000. I have already met with Frank Abate and Jerry Visco to get the county to start breaking out the insurance costs. Because currently, they just do a flat cost on per capita basis. That's how the county bills it. I've tried to change that for 15 years. They now are looking to finally change that. And I don't know, what's your insurance per capita in Cocoa Beach?
Less than yours.
How much? I'm just curious.
10, 11,000 a person.
All right, 10, 11,000.
That's
You're
right.
a little
And
bit
we
less.
saw this problem coming and we dealt with it.
Right, and you're 10, 11,000. You're a little bit less. You bump up against people paying 7. Bump up against people paying 6. All right, we need the county to change how they price their insurance. That's not under the clerk's control. If the county does not change how they do their insurance, then we will be forced to go shop for insurance plans.
Why haven't you done that already?
Let
Why
me get control of the time here.
Well, no, we did do it we have done it in 2008, and we couldn't get anything back on the plan. When I came back, we had a crappy United Healthcare plan that Mr. Needleman purchased that actually it was worse than our health plan and cost more. So we're now looking at the other health plans. Right? You don't just turn on a dime with a health plan based on open enrollment. You don't sit there and make a decision in September, I'm going to have a new health plan in October. You have to look at it now to have a new plan starting in January of 18 to turn on that insurance and provide the information to the insurance provider when you do that kind of shopping for insurance.
All right. Trudy Infantini.
Okay, back to your original question. The challenges in the budget's clerk office. The first one is going to be solve the budget shortfall. As a CPA, I feel incredibly qualified to do so. Not all I do. What I do a lot of the time is look at facts and figures. I think my staff is sick of me working with spreadsheets and teaching them how to sort, and now they're experts on spreadsheets as well, but even at school. So I feel very confident. Provide staffing to serve the courts. I've listened to different people. I've gotten out and started speaking with people, and people say that in the courtrooms there are some shortfalls where even the bailiffs are having to make copies for them. I don't think that that's a proper function, and there may be a way for us to bring in different types of technology. Perhaps the clerk has already looked into this. I can't tell you that. So when I get in to do the job, I'll look to see if there are technological advances that we could make to be able to improve that function. And then finally, I wanted to, which I already alluded to, is improve morale and job security within the clerk's office to make it so I couldn't just let somebody go just because they're wearing a blue shirt today. They have to go through the whole, it's not arbitration process, and I'm sure the word will come to me after you skip to the next person.
Okay. Come back around. Dave Netterstrom.
Again, there's got to be some reason why Brevard got hammered so bad. The average cut was 5.7%, and we got hammered over 15%. I'm not sure why that is. Again, relationship building may be a big part of it. We know the current clerk sometimes isn't the friendliest person or the biggest team player. A lot of that may go a long ways. We need to be fighting for our fair allocation.
If you want details, you go to Volusia, there's a rocket docket, and they bring through thousands of people every year under spring break and bike week, and they classify those as misdemeanors. And all they do is go down by the Winn-Dixie on US 1 and pay the fine, or they have to come back from Michigan a month later. Lee County has red light cameras. Brevard County writes 40,000 citations. Lee County has 90,000 citations. Again, clerk has no control. You can't solve a revenue shortfall at the local level. The revenue shortfall is at the state level. The state takes the money and then redisperses back to the clerks. All right. I don't know how you can have more staffing in the courts, the way we're cut, but I will tell you that what you keep talking about on a civil service issue, the proper word is a union. And if you want to unionize the office, that's fine. If you're elected, you can unionize the office, and you will have every problem that comes with that.
They're going to be
No,
unionized as soon as layoffs come.
Okay.
Well, you can't do
Wait.
anything about
You're not
layoffs
allowed to
when you
start
lose
going
money.
out
Guys,
of
let me
order.
take back
There's
control
an
of the
order
time here and
for
give Trudy
following this
Infantini a
debate.
chance.
Okay? Thank you. Sorry, no offense, but it's my turn. All right? And it's called a civil service system for the non-administrative employees. And I don't want to have a union, and I'd prefer to work with them without having done so. But I want them to have appeal rights so that they cannot just be unjustly let go. There's got to be a better process, and I don't like the insecurity that people feel every time there's an election and you're up against an opponent, and am I going to have a job in a few months? It's a crummy feeling, and I feel bad for the employees for that. Now you can argue.
Okay, let's move on to another subject here. Recently, a proposal was made to replace the Melbourne courthouse. Do you think that courthouse needs to be replaced? Explain. Scott Ellis?
Another example of stupid. That was a scam deal that was perpetrated by a certain individual. That the deal was worked behind the scenes. Allegedly, all the people involved with the courts were in on the meetings except the clerk's office. We were never invited, conveniently, to any of the meetings. There is nothing wrong with the Melbourne courthouse. It is purely functional for what we do with 2 county courts, the hearing officers. Amazingly, what they really want is a brand-new courthouse built way out down by Micco Road, down in the Emerald City in deep Palm Bay by Micco Road. All right, there is nothing wrong with the Melbourne courthouse. In fact, what I did, and the commissioners, again, none of the commissioners, I pulled the facilities report on the Melbourne courthouse. I took the newspaper through the Melbourne courthouse. I'm in the Melbourne courthouse every week. There is not a problem there. The whole thing was ginned up to eventually try and move that courthouse to Palm Bay. That was not the commissioner's goal. That was the lobbyist's goal to do that. All right, this whole thing should have been nipped in the bud right at the beginning instead of being done through secret meetings.
Trudy Infantini?
I couldn't tell you whether or not the Neiman courthouse needs to be demolished or kept. I haven't worked in it to the extent that Mr. Ellis is, so I'm going to have to defer to his response. There was a proposal brought to us. It was an interesting proposal, but like I said, I don't know. You would need to do a study to determine whether or not the facility needs upgrading, and if it doesn't, then right now we don't have the finances to build a whole new facility. So I don't believe so, but I would need to do a study first if a study was warranted.
Dave Netterstrom?
Agreed. Unless there's some health safety issues for the employees working in there and the people that go there, which I've not heard that there are any, Brevard has much higher priorities right now.
Yes, they do.
Anybody want to rebut or add to that? It sounds
No.
to me like there's quite a bit of
Dead on
agreement
arrival.
there. Okay. Let's come back to the issue of ethics and corruption.
I didn't know.
What new policy changes or improvements or safeguards do you support or favor for the clerk's office to help prevent future corruption or ethics problems?
Well, you know, Matt, I think your ethics bill was a joke, and I think that you've known that. If you actually want to do something to enforce corruption and stop corruption, I need an active newspaper which actually would pursue it with investigative reporting, which we do not get investigative reporting. Then you need a state attorney who will prosecute it. All right, here we have Mitch Needleman, $7 million disappears from the office. 3 years later, it's still dragging through the courts in Seminole County. All right, Florida Today never covers the hearings in Seminole County. All right, either I myself or someone else, we go over for each hearing. The paper never covers those hearings in Seminole County. It's all fallen down the memory hole. All right, so if you can steal $7 million, what in the world are we worried about someone paying $10,000 to paint a dumpster? I'm very frustrated over this thing. People commit actual crimes. They're not prosecuted. All right, so I don't care about the ethics bill. That's great, Matt, because you think that's the way to prosecute. But when you open up bank accounts and you see the money transferred electronically through the bank accounts, a crime has been committed. It needs to be prosecuted. If we prosecuted more political people, and if the paper did its job as a watchdog reporter and stayed on top of these issues, you would have much less political corruption, not just in Brevard County, but throughout the state of Florida. We don't have the court as a watchdog, and we don't have the newspaper as a watchdog anymore.
Trudy Infantini?
It's difficult to take on a question where you're asking about how you're going to prevent corruption in a specific office with which I'm applying to be the CFO. Just because I'm me, I can tell you there won't be corruption. However, because I would never sign those type of contracts, but how do you prevent against someone who takes this position that isn't me from doing something corrupt? I guess we need to have a new level of, actually not, we're constitutional offices. And all of our offices are constitutional, whether it's myself, it's the sheriff, it's the tax collector, property appraiser. All of us have constitutional offices. So I guess it's going to be watchdogs, somebody watching out for you and having a hotline to be able to turn anybody in, whether it's my office, it's the sheriff's office, it's the tax collector. There needs to be a hotline to be able to report these things to the governor, because ultimately I believe he's got the only authority to remove us from office.
Dave Netterstrom.
I have zero tolerance for people that break the laws and have low morals and low ethics. Unfortunately, the laws do set the bar pretty low sometimes, and we need to be held to higher standards. There's a lot of things that may not be ethical, but they're perfectly legal. So I do support stronger laws. I do support chasing after people that break those things. And I think it was mentioned at the earlier campaign, I'd certainly support campaign finance reform. I do think that that's a huge corrupt way of the elections and the politicians that get involved and so forth. So.
Anybody need to?
Here's Florida Today version of corruption in politics, Matt. Because if you point out that something's corrupt in Brevard County, oh my God, there's someone in a tinfoil hat coming in on a black helicopter. I went through that in 2012 on this Blueware issue. No help from the paper. All right. I contacted the people. I go down to Grant, spend 4 hours middle of the night getting all the notes, come back. I sue the clerk's office. No help from the newspaper. No help from the county to break open the public records on this. The paper does not want to investigate corruption. I'll go back to what I've said many times. Friends don't investigate friends. And that is because the newspaper is in the same social circle as all the political people in Brevard County, and that is why any hint of corruption here is covered up by the Florida Today. There is no investigative reporting that goes on here. It has not gone on for many years. If we had that, that would be a check and balance on the corruption that we have in politics.
I would actually like to rebut on that. When you brought in the county commissioners, I did work very hard to expose that. As a matter of fact, my staff was working, pulling invoices and canceled checks and things like that to get to you and to get to Matt and I. So to say that we weren't working hard, we were working very hard behind the scenes because we had access, because my staff is trained in how to use the accounting software. It's called SAP. I went to an extra course and got training in it as well. They were able to pull a lot of documents that were instrumental in the Blueware scandal. But going forward, as a county commissioner, I kept pushing and pushing so that we would have the documents available to us from the EDC. And every single time I was outvoted on the county commission because I don't go to Colorado Springs and I don't go to Washington with the EDC. I never take any of those wonderful trips that my peers take. So I did do a lot of things. I tried very hard, but unfortunately, I was outvoted each time.
Dave Netterstrom?
No further comment?
Okay. Just for the record, and for the sake of context, I have asked every candidate who has sat in through one of our forums what safeguards or policies they would support, what new things, and we've given every candidate that question well in advance to marshal their thoughts. Okay, let's move on to the issue of technology. Scott Ellis, you mentioned in an earlier answer that the answer to efficiency and keeping up with smaller budgets is technology. How would you work with the state attorney, public defender, law enforcement, and judges to ensure the best use of technology across offices?
We already do. All the offices are totally interdependent. So with the coming of electronic filing, all the offices handle electronic filing. We are currently working with the Sheriff's Department in Palm Bay for electronic citations. Currently we take in a hard copy citation. If we can get electronic citation, we can download the information directly from the data. The judges have been very good with us at adapting to technology with electronic on the orders. We don't do paper files. Most of the state still does paper files. They do a hybrid paper and electronic. We don't do paper. We could not do paper. At one time, the Vieira file room had 25 people. Now it has 6. We don't have the people anymore to go backwards in technology. So all of us have to work in that. So all the agencies, to me, I haven't found any that have refused to move forward electronically amongst all the agencies that you've listed here, including the judges. Our judges, I feel, have been the best in the state at adapting to an electronic technology, far more so than many other counties who refuse to get off paper.
Trudy Infantini, any new ideas?
Yes, I've been studying enterprise resource planning software. I've been working with it at Florida Tech, the college that I teach at, and I've even reached out to an organization already in anticipation of my next job, trying to find out what questions I need answered so that we can move forward with perhaps even more efficient case management software. It's going to mean working with the judges and the state attorney's office, the public defender's office. I'm not sure how much the sheriff would become involved in that, but all of those places, all of those entities have to be worked with. One of the disadvantages of turning over and switching software is the cost of training, the implementation time it takes to roll over from one system to the next. And then there's always those ongoing maintenance fees. So I'm going to have to weigh that out between taking on a new case management system and the cost involved with the conversion. And also making sure you have staff that has the ability to be trained and get proficient in using the new software.
Dave Netterstrom?
Yeah, I have spoken with many people and that use the clerk's technology, and I myself included use a lot of the online access to do foreclosure research, and technology is not really too bad there. The e-filings and the goal of going paperless is, Brevard, I believe, is actually one of the leaders in the state in that department. But the challenge is going to be in the budgeting coming forward. We know that it's kind of a paradox here. We know that the technology often gets cut during difficult budgeting times, but at the same time, technology is part of the long-term budgeting solution. Now, I guess the clerk's deputy, to be exact, has already admitted that some of the 10% funds are being used in the operating capital or the operating purposes rather than upgrading technology, and we just have to continue to make sure that technology is prioritized. One idea that shouldn't cost any money is being able to put the clerk's budget online, like most other people do already. Another possibility is, since we do live in a high-tech community, perhaps we can put together an unbiased techie task force kind of a thing and let some of our local experts come in and give some advice.
Scott Ellis, 30 seconds if you'd like to respond.
We're not cutting technology. The 10% fine and forfeiture fund, which you speak about, is completely spent on technology. That's one of our disadvantages with other counties. For example, Volusia, their entire IT department is paid by the county. They get to use that 10% fund for courts personnel. We don't have that luxury. We must pay for technology or we are dead in the water, period. That's the only way that we can stay on. So if you take a look at the other counties, if you're in that study, then you'll find out how much they're funded by other sources that we are not. So maybe you think you can go to the county commission and get a couple $1 million from them to help you out.
Trudy Infantini.
I will say he's correct. Volusia County is funded entirely different than us, and so they do have their technology funded through the general county commission funds. So that's one of the things that I would like to do is join on board with the Broward County Clerk of Court in suing the legislature to see if we can get more funding, because I agree with Mr. Ellis, it's not fair the way the funds are allocated, and more need to be distributed. The Constitution requires that the courts will be funded adequately, and I do not believe they're being funded adequately, and it's going to be upon us to convey that to the legislators.
Dave Anderson?
It would also be fun to have cameras in the courtrooms, and perhaps we could even do this through sponsors. But again, it's the people's court, and that would be a good use of technology that I think many would appreciate it.
Well, there are cameras in the courtroom. There is digital recording in the courtroom.
Is it available, to people to watch at home?
If you order it, you can watch it. And you understand that's not the clerk's responsibility.
It's the judges.
Thank you. That's court administration handles that. So if you want court TV, it's up to court administration and judges to allow that.
Okay, let's move on to another subject. I need you all to honor the clock on this one, because we need to make sure that we finish talking before the lights go dark. Economic development. in the EDC has been a big issue for Scott Ellis. Certainly filed lawsuits to get access to records there related to the Blueware case. But I think that also got conflated at times with statements that you made being suspicious of economic development itself. And so the question is, what in this next term would be your position on the EDC and economic development and public records?
EDC is a racket. When the sun shines, they take credit. When the rain comes, they take credit. They take credit for Grumman coming when they're coming anyway. They take credit for Harris not leaving when Harris was not leaving anyway. However, I don't have the luxury of just suing the EDC because they're a racket. I sued the EDC over the Blueware investigation. Blueware was given $4.2 million in cash incentives if they met certain goals. These were cash incentives. It was not an ad valorem rebate. The EDC allegedly vetted Blueware for these incentives. My belief is they did not vet them. It all started with a simple trip to EDC, and all I asked for was a copy of the Blueware file. Not a big deal, a copy of the Blueware file. It was not no, hell no, double secret confidential, I can't give you anything. So, you know, Matt, the EDC went away, we'd be fine. This is a great place to live. I've lived here for over 50 years. We came here as little kids. We were not paid to come here. We came here for the jobs. It's a technical county with great weather. The EDC is a superfluous organization, and we spend $10 million a year on corporate welfare at the EDC, embeds, the CRAs, and cash incentives to companies that laugh all the way to the bank.
Trudy Infantini.
I believe the question was about my position with the EDC, economic development. As a county commissioner, I'm involved a lot with the economic development and the EDC. However, as a clerk of court, my job is to make sure all of the funding payments, all of the payments made are lawfully made. So if there is a question as to the legality of making an incentive, a cash incentive up front, I'm going to investigate that. But as far as economic development for the county, as a clerk of court, that's outside of my jurisdiction. I'm not going to be delving into that unless they go to make cash payments that are unlawful. I mean, it's not a hidden statement that I haven't been fond of a lot of the actions that have taken place. However, I understand my job as a clerk of court is entirely different than my job as a county commissioner. But philosophically, I tell you what, I'd rather have, instead of getting one company here with 1,000 jobs, I'd rather get 100 companies here with 10 jobs each, because I believe small companies are the foundation and the fabric of our county. And if one company leaves, I'm not sunk. If that one company with 1,000 leaves, I'm sunk. I've lost it'd be devastating.
Dave Netterstrom.
As mayor, I did support CRAs, tax abatements, the TDC and the EDC, and any other initiatives that supported job growth and economic growth. The EDC has actually done a fantastic job at bringing in some employers and some new job opportunities. In fact, they're one of the highest performing EDC organizations in the country. Oh, wait a minute, Matt, this is a trick question. This is a policy-making question that has absolutely nothing to do with the clerk of court's office.
Is that your answer?
Scouts, would I take 30 seconds?
You know, I'm not looking to play tricks and read things. Okay, I don't believe in the EDC. As far as what's going on, as far as payments, we are prepared, if necessary, to enter litigation with the county. When you talk about unlawful payments, they are currently lined up to do an unlawful loan. To go embeds will borrow the money to front the money to Blue Origin. The county commission clearly said 10 years at $800,000 per year. Currently, they are in discussions on doing debt and giving them a lump sum, $8 million. Not going to do that. I have been the most pro-business commissioner, pro-business candidate in this county for 30 years. Okay, I get called the closet libertarian. I have never been endorsed by the Florida Today. I've never been endorsed by the Chamber of Commerce, because I don't support corporate welfare. They don't want people with less taxes. They don't want people with less regulation. They don't want people to support a good business growth. They want people to support corporate welfare that goes in certain pockets. That's what the EDC is all about.
Trudy Infantini.
Oh, if you're talking about the person that's been the most pro-business, I've been the person who's been the most pro-business. For the last 7.5 years, I've sat on the county commission, and I've had to make decisions that affect businesses. In my position, that is all I've done. I've been called on the carpet for the last 7.5 years, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of everything I've tried to do. We've helped streamline permitting, not to the extent that I'd like for any means, but we have streamlined it. I got the agenda package put completely online so it was transparent. I've increased a lot of things around the county in my time, so thank you.
Dave Netterstrom.
Again, some of the most exciting news to hit Brevard County recently has been the Amazon founder, Jeff Bezos, wanting to build a Blue Origin rocket factory right here in Brevard County. Hundreds of high-paying jobs and millions in economic benefit. And you just heard it, Mr. Ellis is already preparing a lawsuit against it.
That's not true. That is absolutely untrue. Our issue is that the county commission voted to give $800,000 per year for 10 years.
Okay.
That was the vote. InBeds is trying to borrow the money and give them the $8 million up front, and that's the clerk's job, and that's what you don't understand about the clerk's job. You think this is a Playboy job. You just show up once in a while, and you read off your script. That is the clerk's job. That is the definition of legal and illegal. The $8 million itself is stupid. We're giving $8 million to a man that's worth twice as much as Brevard County. But as far as borrowing money that has not been approved
Scott
by
Ellis,
the
I'm
board,
gonna have to
that
ask
is
you to
illegal.
bring it in for a
Illegal.
landing.
And that is your job as clerk.
Okay, we've got 3 minutes left. I promised you each 1 minute closing statement. It's going to be close. Dave Netterstrom.
With engineering and MBA degrees, executive international corporate experience, investor entrepreneurial experience, and mayor government experience, and a pledge to run the clerk's office with a nonpartisan mission of serving the people. By far, I am the best, most unique, refreshing, and best candidate to take over the clerk's office. It doesn't matter who you vote for in the primary. They are carbon copied clones of each other. And if you're tired of carbon copy politicians, vote Netterstrom in November. With me, you'll get more teamwork, less isolation, more unity, less fighting, more solutions, less name-calling of others' solutions, more ideas best for a county, less ideas best of a single person, and finally, more service and less politics. Thank you very much.
Trudy Infantini.
That one's so tough to follow. That's really hard. Okay, well, as a certified public accountant, I stand on my own qualifications. I don't need to run a dirty campaign. I need to let you know that when I take office, I stay in office for the full term that I'm elected. I won't be leaving my office early, as you did, and I won't be leaving early as you did, but I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay for the full 4 years. And I'm going to bring a bright spot of energy that is grossly needed in the clerk of courts. And it's going to be nice to be the only person that can make the decision, because right now I'm sitting with 4 other people, and oftentimes on the really big ticket items, I stand at odds with them because I speak of logic and they speak of, no, here's relationships. I want to be best friends with this person, and so we're going to make this bad decision. I don't need best friends. I have my family.
I spent 4 years as a county commissioner. I understand what the job takes. It was a full-time job. This is a full-time job. And you know what? If I did it as a part-time job, I could last 20 years. That's a piece of cake. This is a full-time, come to work every day, be prepared job. It is not a show up whenever and shoot from the hip. You have to come in and know your job, period. And that has not been the track record with the county commission. Since you brought the issue back up, Cocoa Beach, not the track record there either. All right, I come to work every day, period. This year, number of days I've taken off, 0. You know the people in your office because you have to. In a period of declining budgets, you've got to know who works for you, what they can do. You have to know your technology. I have a computer science degree, big deal. That's not the secret to success. Being open to new ideas is the secret to success, not thinking that one knows everything.
And that brings us to the end of our program tonight. My thanks to the candidates for Brevard Clerk of Court, Scott Ellis, Trudy Infantini, and Dave Netterstrom. I'd like to thank our sponsors and Eastern Florida State College. I'm Matt Reed. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.